Rana.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. When one says the words public speaking, one naturally thinks of an audience, stage, and some cheerful Toastmasters clapping for them. At least that was almost a year ago. Nowadays, we directly think of online platforms, and that's because everything else has moved to the online realm, such as classes, work, even gatherings. Therefore, we aim through tonight's panel discussion to further understand online public speaking, as well as to understand why some people still lack to see the value of it. In fact, despite being over 1 year down the road of online public speaking and meetings, one of our most experienced members asked us just last week when we will go back to live meetings, because only then will he book his next speech. Tonight, it gives me great pleasure with our panelists that I will introduce shortly to be discussing the value of online meetings, as well as how to best prepare for them, how to be creative with them for the speakers, and from a more managerial perspective for execom role officers, and finally, how will we move forward. So let's all greatly welcome with a warm and very big round of virtual applause our panelists for tonight by alphabetical order of their first name. We have Marie Joe with us. We can also be pinning the panelists. So Marie Joe has completed her persuasive influence path. She is a previous member of Firebirds Collective, the first online-only advanced club. She helped charter Mercury in virtual and very challenging circumstances. She has been the VPM of Mercury Club for over a year, and she is currently the president of that club. She has also participated in contests, and she has been ranked second in humorous division contest. Welcome, Marie Joe. Thank you for joining us tonight. We also have with us Raed, who has been a member at Toastmasters for 4 years. He has served many roles, and the current one, is being president of Pro Toast Club. He has participated in several contests. Hello, Raed. Good evening. We also have Rebecca joining us from Loudspeakers Club. She's been a member at Toastmasters for around 7 years, a veteran really. She has been an SAA secretary, VPPR, and president of Loudspeakers. She has also served roles at the area level as PR manager of the area Toastmasters and part of the compliance and branding teams. She has completed her CC and her ALB, which is the Advanced Leader Bronze Award. So, and she's currently also completing the Innovative Planning Path Level 3. Thank you, Rebecca, for joining us, and good evening. And finally, we have Stephanie Karam, who has also received the ALB award. She has completed the CC from the old manual, and she is also on level 3 from the motivational speaking path. She has been DTAC champion in table topics, and she has also been in contest club champion on the club level for the evaluations. She has also served as president of S&L, speakers and leader, and part of the educational program coordinator for the area. So this has been a bit long, but as you can see, we have very experienced members with us tonight. And let's start without any further ado with the first question. As I was saying, some members are still reluctant when it comes to the importance of online meetings. And I would like to start with Marie Joe specifically, because I know that she's maybe the biggest fan of online public speaking. You have attended so many meetings from around the globe related to Toastmasters online. So could you specifically address those people and tell us, based on your personal experience, what's the added value of online meetings and what can we benefit from them as opposed to live ones?
Thank you, Rana, for your question. Yes, it's a very interesting one. And ever since we started in this online live virtual meetings, I've taken full advantage of it. At least in the first few months, I've attended around 5 to 6 meetings per week. And I delivered many speeches, delivered many table topics. Maybe one reason why people don't want to stay online, they want to go back to the stage, they are craving the attention, they are craving the stage, they are craving this stage fright that most of us are afraid of, but at the same time we crave it. So what I would tell them is that when you go online, you can get really creative on another level. You can do things differently. For example, I do remember, maybe Raed would mention this later on, but I remember one of his speeches in the very first few months, I think the first month of going virtual, where he talked to himself in a way. I'm sure that all of you who were there remember it. So you can get creative in so many ways. And I planned also one time a meeting where I was captured by aliens with those sound effects and everything. So you can do things differently. You can't do that in a live meeting. So that's one of the advantages I can mention. You can get creative online.
True. And in addition to creativity, were there some specific skills that you were able to enhance online? Would you like to tell us more about them?
Yes, more specifically for the people who are afraid or get anxious when they are live in front of actual people. And I'm pretty sure all of us have some level of anxiety. Even the most confident among us have some level of anxiety. When you go online, a huge part of that anxiety goes away because you're in the comfort of your home. Maybe you're wearing your slippers and pajamas. So a huge part of this goes away, and you can focus on actual skills. You can focus on your body language. You can focus on vocal variety more. This is something that you wouldn't be able to focus as much on when you're live, because part of your concentration goes to being anxious and I want to remember my speech and I'm afraid maybe someone will do some sound or something online. All of that goes away and you can focus on your actual skills. So when you go back to being live, you would have practiced all these skills, and when this stage fright comes back, then you would have more space for it to accommodate. So it will be reduced, and at the same time, you would have practiced valuable skills that you can apply live as well.
Totally. So let's make the most out of this time in order to apply it later on in the live meetings. Rebecca, how about you? Since we're talking about how to enhance the skills online, how do you prepare yourself for an online speech? And is there any difference when preparing an online speech versus a live one? What do you do differently?
Yes, thank you, Rana. This is a really great question, because preparing a speech has many layers. I think a lot of them are common when there's between the live and between the live and the virtual public speaking delivery. However, there is an additional, I mean, I enjoy it more when it's online because there's this additional place where you can really manage your stage when you're online. And your stage is this really squarish border that you have in front of you. I remember that when I was doing them live, it wasn't really adaptable or convenient to go to stage and make sure that you know where to position yourself, to train on the body language, on the movement on the stage. However, with Zoom in front of you, you can record yourself for like thousands of times. I did it during, I really did it during the contest, and I was participating previously in other contests. I felt way more comfortable because it's like you're imprinting in your brain the patterns that you can repeat. It's like building something that's really easy to repeat physically when you do it online. And if I would recommend online, it's because of this technology of having yourself in a screen. We in our generation, you're very much used to screens, to movies. Netflix is part of our like daily life, and we're really used to looking at things within a screen. Why not translate it in public speaking? Why not find the same tools to that movie makers use to tell stories when you are on screen and doing that online?
I also think that you have some special setting for important speeches, like when in a contest.
Yes. I really enjoyed last contest. I felt like I did a movie. But yeah, it was fun, yeah.
So yes, the preparation is very important in terms of the technical aspect of the setting, not just focus on ourselves, how we're going to deliver, but also where to set up the laptop, the lighting, and practice, as you said, through screen recording via Zoom. How about you, Stephanie? I know that you have a lot of experience in live meetings first. So when you started delivering the live speeches or roles, what difficulties did you face? What challenges did you face when it comes to the delivery in particular, and how did you manage to overcome them?
So thank you for this question, Rana. I'm actually, contrary to Marie Joe and Rebecca, I'm struggling to enjoy online meetings, and it's more the idea to keep those in the relationships that I have with the people in Toastmaster that forces me to endure the suffering of online meeting, just because I want to stay part of this institution. But it's as good enough reason to stay as anything else. After all, we are a community first and foremost. But I think the most important challenge that I've faced online is that a lot of the times you draw your energy from the audience. So, for example, if you say a joke and you are in your living room, you can't really gauge and see reactions and see how much people are laughing. And it's true that perhaps for shy people, online meetings are a bit easier because they're less daunting. On the other hand, for people who are extroverts, such as myself, we draw energy and we fuel ourselves with the energy of the audience. So if we feel that if the speech is going well, we can adapt, we can draw on that. If we feel that some people are getting bored, we can quickly change the thought. That flexibility and interaction and gathering the reaction with the audience is very much lost in online meetings. And I think the way I'm learning to overcome it gradually is to, first of all, focus on pleasing myself first and try to have some constants while delivering speeches. But yet I have to confess to you, the secret magic recipe of drawing energy, that is still something that is only found in live meetings. And if someone can suggest a plan to fuel myself up, maybe some Red Bull, I'm open to suggestions.
Thank you for your contribution, Stephanie, and I'm actually glad that you are shedding light on this, so we will have more of a debate with the other enthusiasts of online speeches and meetings. And speaking of interaction with the audience, I kindly ask you all to remember some questions. If you want to clarify any of the points that our speakers are mentioning, you will have the option to do so. At the end, we will have around 10 minutes Q&A session for the audience to speak of their mind. Let's go to Raed and hear from him. Maybe he will have some of the ingredients of the secret recipe that Stephanie was talking about. So what aspects do you recommend to make the meetings and the speeches more fun and more creative?
Now, thank you, Rana, for that question. I've actually started thinking about this when we first started this term, because we slowly but surely start to see the decline in attendance, whether it's from members or guests. So we started to think like, okay, we know that online meetings aren't as great as live meetings, because in a lot of ways, public speaking is you feeding off of the audience's energy. Like if a speech is going good or your performance is going well, you can almost feel the energy from the audience, and that even pushes you to even greater heights. And that's something that perhaps online will not replace. But nevertheless, there are things that you can work on and perhaps keep some kind of different energy, not necessarily the same energy, but a different kind of energy. And it's to Rebecca's point and Marie Joe's point, is utilizing the technology and the tools available in every way you can. So, but also to bear in mind that it's you in a digital form, and you can be as animated as cartoonishly possible. So when last year, as MJ mentioned, I had a speech, and I figured, oh my God, this is a golden chance to really showcase the crazy nature that I have to a certain degree, and showcase all the different and logged into a bunch of different computers. It was kind of crazy. If you had seen behind the scenes at my house, I had 3 different laptops on, 2 videos loaded on each one, where there was already pre-recorded version of me in a costume, and they were all spotlighted, and they would communicate with me as the main speaker. And it was something that was fun. It was interesting. It could give a different dynamic to your own speech, perhaps make your point even greater in a lot of ways. But also it kind of relieves you of the, let's say, the negatives of actual live public speaking, because as MJ and Rebecca mentioned, you're comfortable from your own home. And always when we're telling people to get over their fear of public speaking, to help deal with your fear of public speaking, that don't pretend that the audience isn't there, or pretend that they're not judging you, or pretend that they're naked, whichever one you want. All these different ways to de-escalate the fear of the audience that's existing. But when there's a camera, it's much easier to just get behind the idea that it's just you, and you can be as loose, as weird, as creative as you can be, and as animated as you can be, because in a lot of ways we are animated inside, and we just want to showcase it in certain times. So yeah, that's basically the idea. And go ahead.
True. I just like to say, so as you are saying, we have more freedom, more flexibility with the online meetings that we cannot find in live meetings. So let's make the most out of it. And as also Rebecca was pointing out, we have the screen in front of us. So maybe this is a medium that we can capitalize on. I'd like to hear more about that from Stephanie again, because I recall once we were discussing off air about her creative ideas, and that maybe she would go a different direction with online meetings if she were given the chance. So how do you suggest to maybe maximize the outcome of the online meetings, whether it's just through the meetings or other mediums and other platforms? But since we're going online, would you do things differently?
Well, to answer this question, I think a very easy way for everyone to picture it is simply to know what an online meeting is not supposed to be. So I'm gonna just take a few seconds and ask you to go on a mental journey with me. Do you know when you go to the theater, how the actors boast very loudly, "Welcome, I am the King Solomon coming to conquer," because they want people at the very back of the audience to see a very loud gesture, very boisterous voices, very exaggerated features. If you take that theater actor and put it on screen in the cinema, how ridiculous would that look? Similarly, I think one of the biggest dangers that at least older members have, who have been exposed to live meetings at length, is to simply try to transpose live meetings and try to do the same thing but behind the screen, not even realizing that it is a completely different exercise. So the first thing I think that we should note is the lesson of humility. When you go on your first online meeting, you are going on your first meeting ever. You know nothing, it's tabula rasa. Someone coming to Toastmaster for the first time ever may have actually a better chance to teach you about it and to lead this meeting better than you can. And second of all, let perhaps the generation that never knew what was before come up with their own imaginative ideas and get on board with them, because they will be able to get creative without the burden of the past. And once you acquire that dynamic, maybe have fun, experience and learn from models such as YouTubers, not be afraid to go to some very interesting Instagrammers, podcasters, and who we consider basically a reference is no longer the typical TED talker or Toastmaster champion that we used to learn from. And most importantly, and last and not least, Pathways is giving us a tool with projects that are online based. And as arrogant as Lebanese people like to be sometimes, and I may be guilty of that at times, we still have a lot to learn, and the material in order to fill these gaps is there if we seek it. So I think these are my 5 golden rules for now, and maybe someone else would like to build on that as well.
Yes, I would like to, if I can build on that,
Go ahead.
specifically with last year's International Public Speaking Champion in Toastmasters. I actually, if you watch his delivery of the speech, and when he or if you see any webinar that he gave when he's giving kind of feedback or not feedback, advice to future champions who are doing it online, he was really excited with the format, like Stephanie said, because of the idea of him being able to use the screen and project, and he really created something that none of the other finalists did, which was a bit of acting and projecting and using the stage, the screen as you might use the stage, including the corners and popping up from behind, from below, and using all of this. And it was really inspiring to me when I heard him talk about this, because it felt like there's a huge way to experiment, a new creative space for you to deliver your message. So I totally agree with Stephanie. I mean, unlearning old habits in public speaking is harder than kind of going and seeing what you can do with this new medium. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
Thank you, Marie Jo, also for sharing the link so we can have a better look of that. Would anyone like to add some specific skills that they consider important in online public speaking? Maybe Marie Jo, from her virtual travels around the world, some skills that you would like to pinpoint before we move on to something else?
Actually, what I would like to pinpoint, I'm not sure if maybe someone else has anything to do, anything to say related specifically to public speaking, but what I want to say is about the format of the meeting and about communicating with members and guests, because we also do that in some clubs. We are doing the same way we used to do before, and it's difficult to learn. So for example, before, when we were at the live meetings, we used to go and discuss with the guests, see them and get excited, introduce them to the club and everything. After the meeting, we would stay for sometimes more than an hour to discuss and chat. I feel that we are losing that in some clubs online, and I highly encourage every club to highlight this, because it's very important to communicate with the guests and members to make sure that everyone is being engaged, because it gives them importance. So this is something that sometimes some clubs are lacking. I've been around the world, and I've only stuck with the clubs which I notice have that. For example, after the meeting, I learned that from Firebirds, they call it the after party. They give it importance to the point that they give it a name and they put it on the agenda, and there's an after party host who hosts the after party and communicates with everyone. Even so, one time they brought an instrument and started to sing, and so it's a very interesting aspect of the meetings that we sometimes neglect. It's the engagement with the guests and members, the activities, the sense of community, not only public speaking and the speeches.
So I think what we can all agree on tonight is not to approach the online meetings like live ones just on screen, but rather to change the whole vision about it. And since Marie Jo has actually transitioned to the second part of our panel, which is more the managerial roles and approaches that we're going to take, I would like to have a contribution from Raed. Since you are a president right now during online meetings, and I think that you had some kind of vision for the online format. Would you like to tell us more about it, what you have accomplished, and if it's not secret, what you would like to accomplish further on in the future?
Now, thank you, Rana, for that question. We've put several goals, if you will, for the online meetings. And we were thinking of perhaps, because the live meetings are missing the element of, well, live, it feels like there's less of a tension or less of a public speaking in the room. So when you're on stage, there's typically eyes on you. And even though the eyes are the same on online for people who are attending the meeting, somehow it just doesn't feel the same. And even though it is a good thing sometimes, for more advanced speakers or more advanced members, that kind of chips away at the excitement or the factor that public speaking gives them. So I was thinking at some point that we may actually implement some kind of live streamed meetings for those who are willing, for the speakers who are willing to take it take it up a notch and see if they can actually deliver as confidently and bring their A game for a audience of faceless audience, and perhaps much larger than the ones that were actually joining the meeting and so on. So this was part of the things. And another one was actually something that we've looked into and we've shared also with the rest of the area, is basically the animations and the intros. Something to liven up the gavel bang, which for anyone, any of the guests and new members, we used to open up the meetings with a gavel bang, where we bang just the table with a gavel. And that typically for the president signifies the opening of a meeting. Sounds somewhat mundane online, so we kind of spiced it up with these animations that, as you've witnessed. And there's another cool one at the end of the meeting to close it up, so look forward to that. I don't know why I get so excited about those. So that's one of the ways that we've tried to enhance the online experience, and that's just a couple of them. I'm curious to hear from the rest of you. What other thoughts do you guys have on terms of spicing meetings, making them more interesting, exciting? Your thoughts?
I mean, if I would add something to this, is usually there is the sense of purpose. So why are we doing this online? What's the purpose of doing public speaking online? And this is one of the major causes of people, quitting on Toastmasters, because they don't see at some point this isn't public speaking anymore. And I want to share really a personal experience regarding this, because I am probably one of the oldest people I know who started working remotely. I started working remotely online in 2010. And the experience of talking to my clients online was one of the most terrifying ever. I used to have a panic attack. I'm a Toastmaster, so imagine before Toastmasters what would happen. I used to have a panic attack every time I had a conversation or a meeting with a client, mainly because one of the other than the fear of public speaking, as like, what should I do online? What are the tools that I know? How should I present myself? If there's a camera on, what should I do? How do I conduct it? So there is a very practical use, especially in our times for online meetings, because we are gonna transition. Yeah, I mean, once the COVID pandemic is over, many of the companies were gonna go at least hybrid, if not fully remote. So it's gonna become part of our daily routine, and knowing how to master this medium is gonna help us a lot. So if we can translate this vision or this transformation and the use of being one of the first people to know how to deal with online meeting and online public speaking, it could be very interesting for the members to stick to it.
Yeah, I agree. That's true. Rana, we can't hear you. Can you unmute?
Okay, I think it's that. Can you hear me now, right? So since we're talking about moving forward, I think not to be too optimistic, but sometime in the near to medium future, we might go back to hybrid meetings. And since we were talking about the previous members who have transitioned to online meetings, what about the members who have joined just during the online meetings and would go live soon? what they should expect. So Stephanie, if you'd like to add something maybe on the previous point and also to tackle this, what would you advise some of the members who are with us tonight and who have only witnessed live online meetings?
Well, first, it's, as I think everyone is agreeing, what Toastmaster ultimately is a community. And fortunately for the people who were starting online and are going to go live, they are starting public speaking in one of the least intimidating environment ever, which are Toastmasters. And I am saying this in the most objective sense possible. If you are a Toastmaster, it means you are someone who chose to pay money to listen at least 2 hours a week to people who are speakers and who are, for the most part, poor speakers, medium speakers, or improving speakers. None of us joined and are having speaking superstars in front of us, but we joined for the excitement and the thrill of improving ourselves and watching other people improve. And this is one thing that we should never keep in mind. And I think what is lost a bit online and that we should be perhaps focusing on more, that would help either transition, is that spirit of wanting to give back. For example, I saw the very beautiful introduction that you have at Protost before it started speaking, the famous Gavin one. If he, being a very familiar person when it comes to means of technology, shares that skill with other members, teaches other members how to do that for themselves, it gives them the tools for creativity. Not everyone is as technologically proficient as we think we are. I don't know how to do that. I'm a very smart lady and I don't know how to do that. So don't underestimate. Sometimes people feel handicapped by their lack of knowledge when it comes to technology. So sharing these technological tools really helps on one side for the people who never tried it online. A second thing to teach is the spirit of the rules of public speaking. For example, now we're talking about the usage of stage, okay? So what is changing is it a 2D stage or a 3D stage? For example, a lot of people might think that a screen is a 2D stage, but it's wrong. You have zoom in when you want to share a secret. You have zoom out when you want to say an objective point of view. Similarly, when you're on stage, there is the square. There is the space behind you that can refer to an instant in your speech. There is that imaginary ghost friend. If you talk to a friend, for example, on your right, that stage will forever remain your imaginary ghost friend, whether you're online or in real person. So a lot of the times we take the rules of public speaking in a very mechanical way. And if you learn something mechanically, you don't understand why you're doing it. When you understand why, even if you are not a proficient person either in that area or the other, you at least have the codes for it. So all what is left to do is practice. And finally, I know it was a very long intervention, but currently I'm rotating in the pediatrics rotation, and I realized that the most important rule to acquire a learning behavior is not punishment, it is reward, reward, reward. Positive reinforcement. These claps that we hear, finding congratulations, sending each other voice notes at the end of the speech, seeing reactions. I'm talking right now, and if not for this reaction, I wouldn't even know that people are liking what I'm doing. Live, it's easier to get a sense, but still, sending each other voice notes, wow, your speech was amazing. It's not just it was amazing, I love that part about it. Shows people that you listen. It makes you want to give effort because people are listening. They're giving you your time, so want to deliver good quality, whether it's live.
Thank you, Stephanie. I agree with that. Thank you. Would someone of the audience like to ask our panelists before wrapping up any question? I saw someone raising their hand earlier on, so we have a couple of minutes left. Ahmed, are you still with us? In the meantime, if we will take the question, would you like to ask a question to someone?
Actually, I was want to share something, but I can now, or because at the point it's past, so I can now share it.
Could you share it through the chat if it's not a direct question, please?
It's okay, no worries.
Or is it a comment that you would like to give?
Okay, okay. Actually, I have a different background than people here. I came from theater theatrical background. So I want to share the things that can building up on what Stephanie said, because it's part with what I want to share is what
Yes, please,
Stephanie said. I agree 100% with Stephanie, but at the same time we have to think about when you get practice to be a theatrical actor, you start focusing on your steps, your blocking, your voice level, your script. A lot of things you are concentrating on through theatric or stage or whatever you want to call it. But whatever, when you have a real interaction with people, it's different than when you have just these things there that we call it anyway, whatever, phone, mobiles, laptops, etc. So the difference here came from your concentration differently, 100% change. So when you at the theater, you concentrate on every tiny thing that you have to do to keep the respect and also to deliver correctly to people.
True.
And you see the interaction in very fast and
online it's not the case. It's different, as we are saying, and we have to use different tools for that. I would like to ask a common quick question to the participants with us tonight. So some of the members tell us that they lose kind of their edge online, especially when they focus on their charisma and their confidence on the stage, and it doesn't transmit the same online. So quickly, in like 30 seconds or less, what do you think could give us an edge and differentiate us online?
I guess getting a mic and a camera would be a good one. A good place to start. That would distinguish you. I think to point out the points that to reiterate the points that we've made is basically the use of tools available. So as much as you can project your own personality and your own animated essence onto the screen. So it's, as Stephanie said, it's basically just that, just going back and forth, zooming in, zooming out, all that. Just how do you project your own animation?
Marie Joe, Rebecca, in 30 seconds or less.
So I would say your smile. It's very useful for me. Eye contact and a smile. It's very similar to live, in my opinion. Really, if you really acknowledge that you're looking at your audience through the camera, and that you should really show that you're happy and you're listening and you're interacting, it will be enough.
Marie Joe?
I was going to say smile as well, because it's a very powerful tool, and I get like most of the positive feedback I get or anyone gets is about the smile and the positive attitude, but also the eye contact with the camera, not at the screen, down there at the screen. So a trick would be to, if you can't like just look into the camera, just minimize your screen or minimize, for example, if I want to look at Rana, I will pin Rana and minimize it and put it right under the camera. And it's a very good trick to trick you into thinking that I'm looking at you. So, or if I have text that I have written and I need to read it or check it, I would minimize it and just put it under the camera as well. That's a nice trick for everyone. And just fix your posture. Don't look down at the camera or down from the camera. That's like that's not very appealing to see. So try and fix that whenever you're at the camera looking or delivering a speech or doing a role.
Stephanie, I know that you still prefer live meetings, I guess, even after this panel, but do you have just like a one-liner sentence?
Well, first of all, I discovered that my posture was wrong. How I was looking at the camera was wrong. And I don't have professional equipment, so 3 down to go. Great, I discovered three new things simply by listening to that panel.
You were smiling. You were smiling though, so.
Exactly.
Always. My personal advice would be there is an additional tool that you gain by being close to the camera, and it is micro expressions. So basically, if you are far on a stage, you're not going to be able to differentiate someone looking like that or looking like that. There is an extra edge in how you look in the eyes, in the tiny smile, in the smirk. You can, when you're far on stage, you have to like do a big smirk. You have to be extra awkward. While when you're in a camera, you get to play with the subtlety of your face, with your hands much more elegantly, and you kind of learn to forge truer confidence, because on stage you are playing a persona. On camera, you have to be a bit more natural, a bit more genuine, and it kind of helps you really know yourself and play with your face and your hands.
So let's stay genuine, let's smile, let's make usage of the online technical tools. And as always, the key to success is practice. I apologize if someone has more questions. We didn't have time for that. We all went over time anyway, but I think that we got a lot of insightful advice and tips from the panelists. Thank you all again so much for participating. I hope the audience has enjoyed this and benefited from it. And back to you, our Jamie, for tonight.
Everyone, unmute yourselves and give a big round of applause for Rana and all of the panelists of the evening. Thank you very much for participating tonight. What a wonderful discussion.